How are you doing, Mari? What's happening in Denmark?
Hi, I'm so happy to be here with you guys. It's so exciting to be on that live. I'm great. It's, as you said, it's evening and it's already dark and everyone is falling asleep in Denmark. But I'm ready and excited for that to share, that topic because it's a burning hot topic right now.
Yeah, absolutely. A lot of things has happened this year, and obviously everybody's moved online. So I think this discussion about marketing and branding is very hot right now, and it's in everybody's mind. So we'll definitely going to dive a little bit deeper into that today, and I'm super excited to learn more from you as well. So because I'm always trying to improve myself and my message and things of that nature. But let's dive a little bit into your story. So correct me if I'm wrong, but you started off like you were from Bulgaria originally, and then hiked up to Denmark. So how did you end up in the marketing and branding out of all the places? Like, was that a career choice from as you were born, or like how did you shift into this?
Yeah, absolutely. I would love to share a bit more of my story. Yeah, as you said, I'm originally from Bulgaria. I am born and raised there, and I stayed there until I finished my high school. And then was the big question. So, what is it that I'm gonna do with my life and my career? And I would say like it wasn't such a natural choice at the very beginning. It wasn't like since I was 10 years old, I knew that I wanted to be a doctor or something. It was more that I really just laid into, okay, what are my talents? What am I good at? And then I started reflecting and I realized that what I'm really good at is communicating with people and expressing messages and making an impact throughout my words. And I think that's what brought me to marketing. I decided that okay, it's a great blend of creativity and business, so let's give it a try. And basically, that's how I came to Denmark. I came here to study and I finished my bachelor here in international sales and marketing management. And I've been here ever since, and I've been practicing marketing ever since. And, I think I was very lucky because it was an instant match. Like when I started studying marketing, I was like, that's it. Like I was so in love with the subject. Everyone, my friends were complaining when we had exams and they needed to read so much. I was like, no, what are you talking about? That's so interesting. I was just reading and reading and I gradually fell in love with marketing. And then throughout my career, when I started working more solely with marketing here, being in companies, I started falling in love with branding as well. And then, just the two things started clicking together and I realized what a huge importance those two elements have for a company. And I started seeing it, from outside as a customer, but also from inside of a company as an employee. And I think that's how I grew my passion for both sides of marketing and branding. And ever since I have been working in a company, and this year being crazy for everyone, I needed to shift everything. And actually, I'm very grateful because that's what brought me to actually starting my own marketing consultancy and developing my own team. So now I'm able to actually jump on more projects and help more people and more businesses.
Yeah, so you definitely get that more leverage. You have your kind of your hands are a bit more free when you do the things on your own. And you mentioned that you're developing your own team a little bit. You actually get to collaborate, and I suppose it's more like you feel that it's everything is in your hands in a way instead of. I mean, there's a obviously great things to work for a company as well. So you're right now in that sort of transition period of launching more and building and growing and quote unquote the startup phase. And obviously the branding and the marketing, that's what you're talking about, but it's very very important, especially in the beginning. But it's also important in the middle and towards the end. I think like what I'm seeing is like a lot of people when it comes to branding, especially let's start with the branding. So start off like, okay, let's set up a website and put the logo out and do this and that, and then they kind of veer off, they kind of forget the branding side of things, and then they concentrate on the business growth. So what's your take on that of like how important the branding is throughout the business, if you will?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think your observations are spot on. And that's exactly what's happening. I think when you start a business, everyone is so caught up into, okay, how do we brand ourselves and how do we establish our brand on the market? And then in the process, everyone kind of gets too caught up into, chasing the customers or chasing some sales coming in. And they start to forget about the branding. And I think that's a constant conversation that I'm trying to have, that branding should be the base. You should never just forget about it, because that's your foundation. Branding is pretty much your core, and if you don't have your core right, then you don't have anything else figured out. And I think so many, both entrepreneurs and businesses, they just lose track of their business at some point, because they forgot their core, they forgot their mission and their purpose, and that's what branding stands for. It's the initial purpose of why you actually started. So you're very right on this one.
Right. So there we go. I love that. I love that. What you just said there is more of like your values and your core fundamentals. That's what the branding is. Because again, like that's a takeaway for me right there. Like I'm thinking like the branding is your logo, it's the website, it's how do I look, what the colors that I'm wearing, like what is the color of the website and things like that. But it really is like more of the person and the personality itself. Would you say that? So the branding is actually a deeper underlying fundamental values that either the company or the person itself holds, and how do you communicate that outwards?
Absolutely, absolutely. I 100% agree. And I think that's a misconception that so many companies and people in general have about branding. I think they consider branding as something separate. It's not part of the company, it's just part of the processes. And in reality, your brand is your company. Your brand is your face towards the world and towards the customers. So, your brand and how it looks, what image it has, that's what you present to the world. So you want to always take care of that image the way that you take care of your personal image, as a human. And I think exactly what you said, branding is not only the images or the logo or the website. Those are just the supplementary parts, and this is how you express your value and how you express your purpose. But at the very end, it gets back to your core and your fundamental, and again, the why of the whole business.
So is that something that you help people with? I would say yes. Is that like you extract the why of the business in the beginning stages when you
Yeah,
set up?
pretty much. Pretty much. I think honestly that's what excites me the most about marketing and branding, because I think everyone can just go there and give you a bit of marketing ideas and tips of how to improve maybe your attraction or your engagement on social media. But I think where the real value lays is exactly going into a company and helping them figure out where is your brand really laying, and where is your foundation, and what is that drives you inside. And I think when you click to that drive, that inner drive, that's when you can really grow and really chase some very high heights.
Mm, yeah, there we go. There's a little Christina's comment. Is kind of, you're so right, Mary. Branding is fundamental for company, and as said earlier, chasing empty numbers is just not good enough. So there we go. Thanks for that comment. And by the way, if you are watching this with us live or in the replay, leave us some comments. We always like to hear about that, and Mari definitely can open up those ideas and questions a little bit more. All right.
Absolutely.
The other thing that is my burning question to you, and I'm really interested to know, as we dove a little bit into those values already, but especially when it comes to solopreneurs and entrepreneurship, someone that's running his one man band, if you will, and we are thinking about branding here. Um, what about the like? I'm thinking that I would like to see the branding more. I want to brand more the results and more of the service that I'm providing instead of who I am as a person or my logo, or even those values. Like, what's your take on that? Of especially even for a bigger company, like what are the results that they're providing versus the actual, the brand image, if you will.
Yeah, absolutely get it. And I think it's very crucial question, because everything that is happening this year, all of this transformation that we are found in, actually personal brand becomes so crucial and so important to differentiate yourself. So it's a great question that you're bringing in. And how I would approach that, I think it just people get very caught up into stressing about the details, and then they don't know how to approach their brand exactly, the points that you're mentioning here. And I think brand is universal. Like whether you want to brand a corporation or you want to brand yourself as a professional within your career, the fundamentals of branding are pretty much the same. It always goes back to your value and your value proposition. And that's exactly linking with what you just said. driving it to the results and driving it to what your service actually does. And I think that's again the core. Your core is pretty much your value proposition. So it's what value you provide for your customers and your clients and your audience outside, in the market. So I think the way that you're approaching it and you're thinking about it, yes, you want to brand the results. So how I will approach personal branding, and that's what I did for myself, and that's what I'm, teaching other people to do, is just really think of yourself as a business. Like, you don't stress about that fact that you are a human and you have all that life going out there and everything else going on. You want to think about yourself as a running business. What if you were a company? What is the first and foremost, what is the value that you provide through what you do? What is the value proposition that you do? What is the offering, the package that you give to customers? That's where you start. And when you figure that out, whatever it could be, like whether you're a coach, whether you're a consultant, whether you have an entrepreneurship idea that you want to develop, you really start with this. What is the need that you want to fulfill with your solution, and how your solution would help? And that's where we start. And you start building and building and building on this. So I would say, when it's approach personal branding, you need to start with this, and then you go to your target audience. So you really need to consider who your target audience is. And I think that's very tricky, because I feel many entrepreneurs are getting a bit lost, and they want everyone to become their target audience. They're like, yeah, I can help everyone. I provide such great service. Of course, everyone will want it. And that's when it becomes a bit unattainable, and it's so much more harder to approach it, because you don't have a clear goal and idea of who you target. So that's the second part, is choose who your ideal customer is. And that's something that I've been talking through my content, and I really, highlight the importance of it. So you need to imagine in your head your solution. Who does it fit? Who is your customer that really would benefit out of your solution, out of your service, and out of your value that you're bringing in? So basically, like when you come up with those two things, your value that you provide as a business, and your customer that you want to serve, those two things just match. And that's when you have the solid core and the foundation. And then you start building up on this. You start building up, and then you start reaching for those, supplementary elements, like building up the image of the brand, building up, a consistent message that you're communicating through all of your channels, building up your channels and your overall presence on any platform. So that's how I would approach it.
Yeah, that's beautiful. Thank you for that clarification, because I just it's funny, like I've been very aware of this in the last couple of years, but when I started, I went exactly backwards. I started with like, oh, let's start doing the marketing first,
Mm.
and let's get into the marketing in the second. But what I'm hearing is the branding becomes before the marketing. You want to have those fundamentals in place first, and then start putting yourself out there. And what I'm seeing a lot in the marketplace today, and for myself as well, is what I used to do is I started doing marketing first without
Mm.
having any idea of who I am or what's my value that I'm providing to the marketplace. So I was like, okay, let's just backtrack a little bit. Let's go
Mhm.
back to the fundamental and start from there. So what do you see that, like, obviously we're getting into that right now, but when it comes to marketing, then, like, my view is that the branding, if you will, is more of like universal. It doesn't really change much, whereas the marketing comes first of all, it comes after the branding, but it also has more of trends, more of like ups and downs, especially if you look at social media right now. Like, LinkedIn is hot right now, and maybe a few years ago the Instagram and Facebook were hot, and it kind of, marketing has more of these trends and ups and downs. What do you see? How do you play with the brand and marketing, the differentiations between them?
Yeah, absolutely. So I would say, your take on the topic is great, and I think it's the right one. Branding is the one that is always solid, and it should always be solid. And I think if you start changing your branding up to the trends, that's when you're gonna lose,
Mm,
because your customers want to build trust in you, and you build that credibility throughout having a consistent and authentic brand. And
mm,
that's what brings me to marketing. Yes, marketing fluctuates a lot, because at one period something is the hot topic of the day, and at another time like you find a new social media and everyone is crazy about it. You're
Yeah.
like, what do I do? I'm lost. But I think first of all, another solid foundation is your marketing strategy. And I think something that many businesses miss, they just jump on the tactics and the new platform coming out, but they need to develop a solid business and marketing strategy that would lead them along the way. Because when you connect your branding to the strategy that you have in a way to who you want to market it, who you want to sell to, and in a way you understand your customer, and that's what leads your strategy, you have a better direction. So even if in 2 months my prognosis is completely different and there's a new app that is the hottest in town, when you know your direction and you know your customers, then it will be easier for you to communicate with them and connect. And it's just a matter of switching the platform. And I think now everything is digital this year, and what we need to do as companies and as brands, we need to level up our digitalization as well internally. So we need to be more present. But I think also what I have noticed to become the trend right now in the market is that it's not enough only to be present. Many brands already can check that. They're like, yeah, I have my website, I'm posting all the time, I'm communicating my message. But I think what we've seen this year is that being present is not enough. You need to also be active. And that's my advice. Like, start being active. And by active, I mean start communicating with your customers, start engaging with them, start acting the way that you want them to act toward you. And that would go for marketing. Like, if you want to put some content, engage back with it. There are so many silent comments and no one reads them, or no one responds to their clients and to their customer messages. And that reflects a lot about your brand, and then eventually your customers wouldn't be so eager to interact with you either. So I think that would be a winning point. Just go after your customers and focus all of your efforts towards pleasing them and serving them and engaging and making them a part of your conversation. And then
Yeah.
the next thing that I would say is just, especially it goes for bigger brands, but I think also goes for sole entrepreneurs. I think we have lived in so many years that it's enough for you to have the status of a brand. But I think what people seek right now is not status. They seek authenticity and they seek action from the brand that they believe in. So in a way, if there's an issue going on in the world, the way that we have noticed this year, COVID, all of the protests, all of those things happening, these are things that are bothering people on a deeper level, and having a superficial message or something super polished and putting a status on as a brand wouldn't serve you. Like, you need to be out there with your people and making them aware that they're your people. And I think that's when you would win.
Yeah, you know what's coming up from, like, there's a lot of things that come. That's awesome. Thanks for sharing that. That's great. What's coming up for me is, first of all, sort of like the mental clarity. You want to have super clear of the people you serve. What is your message? Obviously, that the clarity is the first thing. But the second thing that's maybe more interesting, at least to me right now, is that when you mentioned about that connection, is that we need to be connected to people on a deeper, like on that emotional level right now. Like back in the days, it was like, if you just reach their head, if you reach people's heads and their minds, that was probably enough. But right
Yeah,
now, we actually need to reach people's hearts, and we need to feel connected to them. And the people won't buy from you, or they won't feel connected to you unless it's in a deeper sort of emotional level through storytelling. And I think that's what I'm seeing in a lot of the marketing as well. It's a lot about the storytelling right now, and feeling that connection with the people. So going
exactly.
from there, like, what do you see for 2021 right now for the next year? Obviously, looking back at this year, there's like a whole bunch of stuff happened this year,
Yeah.
but mainly, obviously, everybody got online. But what about next year for 2021? If we start moving on, like we're right there right now. How would you start advising someone to get ready for 2021 when it comes to branding and marketing?
Yeah, absolutely. I would say first and foremost, and that's what I say, and I would say in any occasion, even if there's an apocalypse, do that. Go
Mm.
back to your foundation and make sure that it's solid, because I think so many businesses were struggling this year. because their foundation wasn't solid. And what I mean by this is focus on your brand, focus on your value proposition, focus on your business model. Those are your core elements, and they will bring you up no matter what happens in the market. So that's my first take. Then I would say focus on your customers and build that connection with them. I feel like too many companies were, and businesses in general, were too wrapped up in the idea of just catching up with the competition and looking what the others were doing and trying to imitate them. But at the end, the customer is left unserved. So I think that's why advice, like focus more on the customer and what they actually want, because then you'll be able to develop a solution that probably is not even on the market, but it would be more beneficial for you, for your business and your revenue, but also for your customers. And then I would say, like, when it comes to marketing and generally communicating with your customers, it's, as you said, like you want to build that connection, because it's not anymore about status. It's not anymore just being there and being seen. You really need to be someone that is valuable for customers to want to engage with, and they should see you as someone that you can help them, but you're also there when they might not need to buy from you, but you're still there to support them. And I would say, it very much goes to be authentic. I feel like this year another trend that has been developing is that people want something which is more personalized, that it hits them on a personal level, on a more raw level. They don't want to see that polished picture of that perfect perfect world, perfect family, perfect product. Nothing is perfect, and that year proved us this exactly. And I feel that if you want to win in 2021, be authentic to your brand, and be authentic to to who you are and what value you really provide, and that will do it. It doesn't matter. You don't need to have the best website, you don't need to have the best marketing campaign, because reality that we're seeing right now, and especially me as a marketer, people don't care about this. They want to see the value, they want to see the reality, they want to feel that they can relate with you. And that's my advice, like that ultimate thinking: be relatable for your customers and make sure that you can serve them the best way.
Beautiful. I love that. I love that message. Getting back into the roots, getting getting back into the fundamentals, and leaving that kind of superficiality, if you will, behind, and going back to who you truly are, and communicating from that space. I think that's very, very, very powerful. Awesome. Let's take a quick question here. There is Milena
Sure.
asked, like, I think a common misconception about branding is that it should be only in the packaging of the products.
Mm.
Why do you think it is like this? So we backtrack a little bit in the branding there, but yeah, what do you think is the misconception there about the branding?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think, for so many years, people were, or businesses were focusing only on the performance. They focused only on sales and driving revenue. And that's what pushed marketing so away from the big, the big game. And I think that's why they were focusing primarily on product branding, because they were very much into, okay, how do we sell this product? How do we make the best packaging, the best campaign about it? And that's why it's important for us right now that we focus more onto the corporate brand, we focus more on the employer brand, we focus more on our personal brands, because that's what differentiates us on the market. Seeing that clearly this year couldn't be for performance, because customers were in a place where they could just buy and buy and buy, and companies were in a place where they can just go with business as usual.
Yeah, beautiful. All right, Mari, let's start wrapping this up. I love this discussion so far. This is great, great, good stuff. So, what would you like some takeaways for? I know there's a lot of takeaways already, um, but someone who's kind of just putting himself or herself out there in the social media, or and doing the work, quote unquote, but not seeing the traction, not seeing lots of results, if you will. And I think one of the things that I'm taking away is like going back to your branding, going back to your fundamentals. But if that's too overwhelming, like what is the first single easiest step, that like where do you start that branding journey?
Absolutely, that's an awesome question. And I'll get back again to what I was talking about before. And I would say, if you need to start with one thing, start figuring out what is it that you bring as value. Start with this. Figure out your value, figure out your value proposition. develop it so that I would say do that exercise. And I think it's fun. And I have done it myself. Make an elevator speech. They always advise you this, like come up with a short introduction of what you do and what your service can provide for the customer or for your audience. Start with this, like practice it, so that when you get so confident in it, you can easily start communicating it over the different platforms, and then it's going to be authentic to you, and you wouldn't find yourself imitating someone else or trying to catch up with someone, because it's going to be your true message. So that's my starting point. And then the next thing that I would say, and probably wrap up that question, is just be consistent. I would say I see so many companies or entrepreneurs trying to build a brand, and they start and they're headed to a great result at the end, but they just stop at the middle of the process because it could get overwhelming. It's true, like it's hard to keep up being consistent and not seeing the result, but I promise you at some point in the journey you start seeing the results coming, so you just need to be consistent.
Yeah, need to put yourself out there. And I think the want to add to that one is like, especially if you're by yourself, like in my case, I had some deeper, darker valleys in some point of the journey for sure. And I think one of the biggest things that helped me and would have helped even more on those days is the support, is to
Yeah.
reach out and look for people that can actually help you on your journey, because nobody wants to do this alone for long periods of time. I mean, there's definitely periods that you need to kind of go deeper and find out your values and those value propositions and so forth. But having support, having someone in your corner, looking over your shoulder, like, hey, tweak a little bit of that, tweak a little
Mhm.
bit of this. I think that helps so much. It cuts down the time of the journey so much. So I think that's where someone like you as a professional can come in and say like, hey, maybe a little bit of that, and maybe a little bit more of this, and a little bit less of that, and then all of a sudden, the 6 months that you plan maybe can cut down to like just a few weeks, for example,
Yeah.
because it saves so much time. So I would add having solid support is crucial as well.
I absolutely agree. I think it's crucial to find the right people to surround yourself with, because it's easy along the journey to feel like it's only you who believes in your purpose. But exactly as you said, finding people who are like-minded and who are believing in your purpose the way that you do and are willing to always support you and help you, it's key. And I think that's why LinkedIn is such a cool platform, because it allows you to find people who not only will support you but probably have the knowledge that maybe you're missing and can help you, faster the process of getting your goals at the end.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's wrap up with this one. Where do you mention LinkedIn there? Is that where you hang out the most these days? And in your social media, well, actually, and where else? Where, like, you have a social media presence in LinkedIn? Where else?
Yeah, right now I'm primarily focused on LinkedIn. I think for me it was very solid goal to develop my personal brand on LinkedIn, so that was my starting point. And right now, as a consultant, I'm planning to jump on Instagram and do the same process there, and also develop my website and all of those things. But I think if you're just starting, taking it one step at a time, it's solid enough. Don't stress over being present everywhere.
Yeah, oh man, you hit my nails right there. Like again, like one of the biggest mistakes I did in the beginning was I was trying to be everywhere all the time, and obviously it didn't work. So I was trying to build the website and doing the social media and by myself, and ooh la la, there we
Wow.
go. All right, no, thank you so much for that, for those tips and ideas and golden nuggets that you provided us. And yeah, so we can find you from LinkedIn and soon enough from Instagram and from your websites as well. So thank you
Yeah.
so much, Mari, for your
Thank you
time.
for having me. It was so much fun, and I hope that we've covered some valuable information here.
Absolutely, absolutely. Thank you so much, and we'll look forward to seeing you.
Thank you.